math class, we're learning about quadratic equations and polynomials, and that's pretty much where you just take a bunch of different terms and you add them together and it makes a really weird looking graph, and there's so many different versions of it that you can have, and there's a lot of different ways to break down what the x-intercepts are, what the vertex is, what the y-intercept is. Okay, stop, just stop. No math. Actually, this whole video is kind of about math. So anyways, I thought to myself, what if I made a program that solved my quadratic equations for me, and then I don't even have to do my homework? So I decided to make a C# project, give it a fun name, and let's get started. First of all, I started by getting input from the user just using a few console.read lines. And then I had to move on to doing the actual equations to get the x-intercepts and the vertex and the y-intercepts. Luckily, finding the x-intercepts was actually really simple. All I had to do was plug in the numbers into the quadratic equation, which is -b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac over 2a. Wow, that was a mouthful. Unfortunately, finding the other numbers wasn't quite as straightforward, but after a bit of thinking and messing around, I think I got it. I also added some code to display your numbers to the console because that's kind of important when you need to know answers. And so finally, after absolutely no testing at all, I ran the program. And surprisingly, it worked first try. I was so happy that it actually worked first try, because most times when I make a program, it doesn't. I even tried multiple different questions, and it worked. It was so cool. Now, if you have a big brain like me, you might have noticed something. You can't input fractions into this program, which is kind of not very good when you're dealing with fractions and quadratic equations. And so, let's make it compatible with fractions. So basically the game plan was to take the fraction, split it into two pieces, and then take those two numbers and divide them by each other, so that way you don't have to manually turn your fraction into a decimal, and the program can just do it for you. After a bit of experimentation and research, I was able to use the split command and do exactly what I wanted to. After figuring out that fraction stuff, I moved on to trying to make my program as precise as possible. I tried to scale up my quadratic equation with the greatest common denominator of each term, but then I realized, wait a minute, my math teacher only asks for the next 2 decimals, so maybe it doesn't need to be that precise. And so I completely scrapped that idea, but it was a good idea, and I held on to the greatest common denominator code because I actually really liked it. And so I ran the program again. Now I could actually input fractions, and even though it wasn't perfectly precise, it was still precise enough. And finally, we're done. Except we kind of need I. Yeah, you heard me right, I. If you don't know what I is an imaginary number, which doesn't make any sense, but let's add it to our program. Now the reason I have to add this to my program manually is because C# doesn't recognize I as a number, which makes sense because it's freaking imaginary. But anyways, it would give me an error where it said NaN, or not a number, because I is not a number. Luckily, it wasn't too hard to implement into my program. All I had to do is see if what I was square rooting was negative, and if it was, I could just add ion to the end of the program and then make the negative positive instead. And that was pretty much it. It was really simple. And so finally, for reals this time, I was done with the program. I ran a bunch of different tests to make sure that it was working properly, and if the x-intercepts did not exist, it would give me an I number, and it would give me the right vertex, and it would give me the right y-intercept, and it worked like magic, and it's really cool. And so now I can use that to check all my homework, and I'm gonna get straight A's. And that's it. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed making it, making the program, editing the video. Editing these kinds of videos takes a really long time, so I'd appreciate it if you liked the video. That would be awesome, and if you commented. And maybe I'll try to make this available for all of you watching. Maybe I can upload this somewhere and you could download it and use it to check your math too. Anyways, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll catch you next video. Peace.